Hi, I'm Erica, and I'm back with you guys to talk about the environment. So, quick question. What do you think about climate change? Is it natural? Is it man-made? What's your view on it?
I feel like we can't control if it's going to rain or snow or shine. So maybe it is just normal, just environmental.
I feel like you shouldn't wear shorts if the weather's not more than 70 degrees.
That's a great thing to say. Wow. So, basically what I want to talk about is anthropogenic climate change, which means man-made. I'm a big believer in the fact that climate change is 100% brought on by humans. A long time ago, in the Paleocentric era, the Earth's climate was about what it is right now, 400 parts per million of carbon. So a lot of people refer back to natural cycles of the Earth and say, well, the Earth has been at this point before. But I think it's important to remember that that took a span of 10,000 years. What we got from today, we actually achieved in less than 200 years, since around the Industrial Revolution, which may have to do with humans and polluting. What are your thoughts on that?
I really can't give you my insight. I'm not very smart when it comes down to this, but I will just tell you, I don't really know how a man or a woman or whoever it is can really decipher whether or not we change climate. Tell me, how does a man change the climate?
Because I'm that hot.
Okay, we're not talking about looks here, okay? We're talking about weather.
Personally, everyone has their own carbon footprint. Just getting in your car today, you have released so many emissions. Just living and breathing in our own houses right now. There's so many other countries that handle it so much better than the U.S., and I wish we would kind of step up to the level. But right now, we have actually pledged to drop our emissions by 17% by 2030.
And how would we do that?
That's the plan in progress right now, as they're figuring that out. Basically, there's a lot of different systems at play, but there's people who want what's called a carbon tax, which basically means that giant emitters like companies and corporate places will get a tax for how much carbon they emit. So how much they're polluting our environment will be a taxable thing. So with this, it will have give people a reason to not pollute as much. But also, other countries do what's called carbon incentives. So basically what that means is that if they stay below a certain level, they get money from the government, which is goes back into who's going to pay for that, how much is this worth to us. But I think it's important to note that climate change is a serious issue and it's affecting us right now. There has already been species that have been eliminated solely due to climate change. The first documented one was in the 1980s, which was the golden toad. It's not as many animals, people don't see it as much, they don't believe it, but if you look at our oceans right now, the ocean is considered a carbon sink. So basically it sucks in carbon and it takes it out of the atmosphere, which is good and all, but it's actually polluting the ocean terribly. It's acidifying it. We're losing coral reefs at an extremely high rate. They're actually considering creating false coral reefs because of how bad the situation is. With the ocean acidifying, it's going to affect us all pretty soon. Fish populations and all that are being affected right now. It's going to affect all the global markets, food trade and stuff like that. It's just a huge issue coming up. People don't see it as much, but it's there.
When I think about the environment, man, it's not high on my list of priorities, but what I would tell you guys is this: you need to understand. Don't urinate in the ocean when you go to the beach. That's disgusting.
Okay, well, first of all,
recycle your water bottles.
You don't urinate in the ocean when you're at the beach.
Don't pee in water.
There you go.
Unless you're in the shower and it's going straight down the drain. I'm sorry, it happens.
Okay.
The hot water,
That's still
it happens.
gross.
Every little boy in here has done it 18 times. That's why they're laughing right now. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I don't want to hear about your urinating shower problems.
You should recycle your water bottles because you get a nickel. And if you save them up, $3 is a great snack. You can get yourself a double cheeseburger and a small fry from
Or you can take that
McDonald's.
girl on a date.
Yes, and y'all can split the double cheeseburger and the small fry. So where we headed to now? We just went to a super serious topic that we all should really be concerned about.
And then we talked about poor hygiene, but I don't know where you want to go.
Hey, it's our
from
environment, right?
Uh,
He's trying to protect the environment by
Well, I think the environment is a
conserving water.
serious issue, like, and it can be a game changer for like the voting process as well with like upcoming elections and whatnot. People forget that like that's our future, and also another aspect of it is for anybody who is religious, especially like the Catholic social teaching courses, they talk about option for the poor and vulnerable, which is a huge part of the environment because with global climate change, third world countries, which are like typically the least like of the emitters, they'll be the ones most heavily affected. They all live on coastal areas. Part of global climate change is the melting of the glaciers and obviously rising water levels. What happens is those places will be flooded out. Mass amounts of people will have to like become refugees, move to other countries, or are going to have like less resources as well. This is like a topic that is within the next 100 years, like our children, our generation, like it's something that we can stop. Like we still have a chance. Like we are one of the last generations that has a chance to stop this before it gets any worse. I think it's just so important to like not push aside again. Our generation has a say in it.
What can these children, what advice are you giving to these kids? Because you're saying a lot of things, and I'm understanding the validation of it and its importance. But you're talking to a 15-year-old kid. He's just trying to figure out how to get a girlfriend, how to make the sports team. What can he do? Why is that going to matter to him? Because he has, as a 15-year-old, you're not even looking that far ahead. So what can we give to that kid in the crowd and that kid sitting at home that they want to know why this is important to them right now, today, because they can't really look far ahead to the future at this point in time.
Well, I mean, right now we're already killing off things, but like that's like just part of it. I mean, what can you do? Like reduce your carbon footprint. Like look at how much, like how.
What's carbon footprint? I'm sorry to backtrack.
Oh, it's okay. It's like what you emit every day. Like what like things you use. Like for example, vampire electronics. It's basically, for example, I'm trying to look around the room. Okay, like a TV. It has a standby mode. Basically, it's constantly sucking electricity, which is constantly wasting power, which is brought to you by fossil fuels. So basically, leaving your unplugging vampire electronics at night is a huge part of it. Just not wasting energy, getting an efficient car, especially for 50-year-olds. You're going to be getting like your license within a year. You're going to start looking at cars. Don't be afraid to get something that's more efficient, just because it doesn't look as cool or whatever. Like a Prius gets 50 miles per gallon. Like that's unreal. I mean, my car like gets like 34, but like that's good enough for me. Like if you're looking at like any bigger truck, like you're gonna get like maybe like 20 miles per gallon, like if that.
Definitely. My little Stella, she gets 34 miles to the gallon, and I'm okay with that for now.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could drive a Prius though. I'm a little.
Prius, you got a better. I have a better shot at taking a girl out to McDonald's for $3 than the girl wanting to ride with me.
They're
in my
very
Prius.
expensive. The Prius, they are. I mean, some people, you don't like them. I see them a lot, and I just actually, on my way here, I saw people like it's kind of creepy. But I know my mom, she works at AutoZone, so she knows a lot about cars. And are you talking about the battery-operated ones, or?
Yes.
She told me that if one battery goes, because there's 8, I believe, in the car. If one goes, you have to replace them all. You can't just replace the one. So it's very money-consuming.
I mean, because like I've talked to my mechanic about this before, because my mom has a Prius. Like you can replace the individual like bolts and or there's like individual parts of it. The guy was saying. I can't talk about this too much because I'm not actually. That's okay. But I mean, on topic of cars, you guys can go into that. I mean, what are your thoughts on cars?
Cars. Look, you're a teenager, man. If you're blessed, if your parents bless you with a car, you're blessed to have the opportunity to get a license. Just appreciate that and be responsible. There's so many accidents that are out there. That's because people are driving carelessly and recklessly and texting. Don't do that. Consider this. Every time you get behind the wheel, there's a risk of you losing your life.
Not even yours, but someone else's as well.
Exactly, but you think about this. Would you want to be on the road with people that are constantly being distracted while driving when you have to drive as well? Your life is on the line. So that same feeling, that same emotion that you feel when you see somebody cut you off, for all my drivers out there, is how other people feel when they see you texting and driving, or whatever you kids do, and you ride around in mom's minivan with the whole crew and you have a great time listening to music. We urge you to be responsible, because there's a bad connotation and perception that's out there for all the older people that look down on younger people and say they're too irresponsible to drive. They don't pay attention. these are things that you have to keep in mind, and when you're put in that situation, you really have to appreciate it. Because if you're the guy in the crew, if you're the girl in your crew with the car, you're the real MVP. You're the most valuable player. You're the guy. You're the person that makes sure we're going to get to the party. We're going to get to school. We don't have to take the yellow bus. People don't like taking the Twinkie all the time. You know, you just have to be responsible, and that's my viewpoint. I don't think there's any particular car that you should go for. I think it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing if you get a job, you save up and get your own car. That's wonderful. That's beautiful because you're being responsible and you're taking accountability.
Let me touch base with this. My lifetime, I can't count how many car accidents I've been in. Granted, none of them have been my fault. But speaking on someone else's behalf, as you know, you're looking at somebody else and hey, that person's texting, oh my god, my life's at risk. So you're right. I want to make sure that the surrounding people that are driving are doing the right thing. Am I perfect? By far. Do I text and drive? When I had a phone. Should I have been? No. But accidents are real. I should have died in the past 2 accidents that I've been in. By the grace of God, I'm still standing here to tell you my story. I was driving down the road. I wasn't doing anything wrong. My first one, my rack of pinion snapped. Which, if you guys don't know, that's the thing that could steer or that controls your steering. So, you know, as it stopped and snapped, I tried to put on my brakes. My car went into the ditch. I flipped it and hit the tree. Landed upside down. I was stuck in the car for, I don't know, an hour until actually my sister came and got me and pulled me out while she was 7 months pregnant. But, you know, things like that happen. It's not something that I could have prevented. But imagine now if I was texting or trying to find that song I really wanted to jam to on my way to wherever I was headed. That could have been more tragic than what it was. So I agree that, you know, we have to be the trendsetters. We have to be safe for you guys. You guys are going to look up to us and be like, hey, they wore their seatbelt today. It must be cool. Decorate your seatbelt. I have a little zebra thing that goes over my seatbelt. If you think it looks cool, maybe you're more eager to do it. I don't know. How do you guys?
I think it's just important to remember that most of the time when people do terrible things on the road, when they're aggressive drivers, when they're texting and driving and they're being irresponsible by drinking or being under the influence of other things, it's not them that they're hurting. They're not hurting themselves typically. Like, it's always someone else that gets like the worst of it.
Right.
It's someone else's kid. It's someone else's brother, sister, whatever. And you need to remember that you're not just like putting yourself at risk, you're putting everyone else on that road, even kids walking by.
Which actually just happened recently. Someone walked by and got hit by a car and they died. Actually, I think it was a mother and their daughter. And they just recently passed away from an idiotic driver. It's really sad. It happens. It's real.
And just because someone is being a jerk on the road doesn't mean you have to be a jerk back. Maybe they had a bad day. Maybe they had their kid in their car. Don't be an aggressive driver back. Just be a defensive driver. I know people make mistakes, like we're all human on the road.
Right.
But don't go back at them like with that intensity. Like if you have to like pull over even, go ahead, do it. Take your time. Take a step back.
And we're here with Teen Matters, ready to take another commercial break. And when we return, we're going to go into the crowd and ask some teens if they have any questions to ask us about anything we've discussed or anything else.
Thank you.